Hello. See, some people are saying hello. It's awesome. Having some people from all over, which is awesome. Just gonna wait just a minute, just because I'm waiting for some people to kind of get in here. New to the program, okay. Ah, from Salmon Arm. Interesting. I was there last summer. I wish I was there this summer. Fortunately, I will be not going anywhere this summer, it doesn't seem. All right, so we've got a bunch of people here. It's awesome. So a couple of people are brand new. Yeah, so it's, don't worry if you're brand new to the series. So it is at the last session in the series. So it's, I mean, better late than ever to come and join us. And this session is going to be really useful for anybody, whether you came on the last sessions or not, just because it's actually going about sleep hygiene. So for those who have hung out with us for the whole session, you'll see that some things are going to be repeating a little bit, not too much, but I may have mentioned some things previously and you're going to go, okay, well, I already know that. It's just because we do have some people that are potentially going to be brand new, which we already know we have at least 3 that haven't been here before, which is perfectly fine. Welcome, thanks for joining today. Okay, so most people are in. I know that there's some that are registered that haven't joined us yet. If they join us, awesome. If they don't, that's fine. We have a great group as it is. Okay, so welcome today. If you haven't been here before, I do have to do some housekeeping before we get started. So the presentation you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. Any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained in this presentation is strictly forbidden. Some of the topics discussed in this webinar may be of a sensitive nature and not appropriate for children, so we do ask for parental discretion. Today we're going to be talking about sleep hygiene, so not really of a sensitive nature, but we'll be talking about sleep hygiene for adults and not for children, so just kind of keep that part in mind. Please understand that people's stories are theirs alone to tell, and anything that is shared by participants in this webinar, either on camera or in the chat, is not to be discussed outside of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on calfconnection.ca. Though active participation is encouraged, you may simply follow along without using the chat or the video microphone functions if you prefer. So for those who are new, I don't turn on the microphone video functions for participants during the session until the end, and only then when people request it. Just because if you have everybody's mics turned off, inevitably someone forgets to turn their mic off and you hear everything that's going on in their house. So if during the question period you have a question that you'd like to ask verbally rather than type it, just ask me for your mic and I will be happy to turn that on for you. I do really encourage everyone to chat in the chat box, answer questions, talk to each other. I think that you're going to learn a lot more with engagement versus just listening to me talk for the presentation. There's also going to be a couple poll questions. They are anonymous. I can't see who answered what. I can just see the overall answers, okay? So just make sure that you're kind of being honest there. There's not a lot of poll questions this time around. I'm actually going to get a few people to kind of be engaging in the chat instead. I think that's about it for the housekeeping portion of this. I know some people have mentioned if you are new as well, it does say on the bottom part that the webinars will be available for viewing on calfconnection.ca later on. They're still working on putting all that together. However, I can share the link at the end, which is on our 4-Wing Calf Connection page, and we link just some temporary links for all the webinars, these ones and any that have been presented nationally. So if you kind of saw something in the past but weren't able to grab it because you were working or you're busy with children or you were just out and about, you can take a look at that link and see the webinars. It takes about a week though for example, like this week's webinars will probably take about end of next week to be added. So don't freak out if you don't see it. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the last section of the Sleep in You series, and it's called Keep Calm and Sleep On. So we're going to be talking about sleep hygiene specifically, and then tips and tricks on how to really start sleeping well. Or if you are sleeping decently well, maybe how you can even make it better. So before I get started with the content, we're going to just do a couple polls, which if you've been here before, you know exactly what I'm about to do. So the first question here is, what is your affiliation with the CAF community? So you'll see that pop up. You just need to answer if you're a serving member, a veteran, a family member, a civilian employee, or other. I will mention that I do know that some civilian employees may also be veterans, so just pick whichever one best describes you at this time. Okay, so we have most people have answered. Missing one or two here, but that's okay. So majority are serving members today. We've got a family member and some civilian employees as well. Oh, there we go. 100% of audience just replied. Okay, great. All right. So I do know that some people have mentioned where they are coming in from. If you haven't, just let us know where you're joining. You can just joining from. You can put that in the chat. Your city, your province, whatever you said. I'm just going to go through here quickly. We had Trenton, Richmond, Gagetown, Petawawa, Ottawa, Moose Jaw, Cold Lake, Ottawa, Salmon Arm, Victoria, North Bay, Halifax, Borden, Nova Scotia, Sudbury, Vancouver, Sudbury, Newmarket, Gagetown. So we have all Canada today. So far, unless people are just not telling me. Oh, another Petawawa, and kind of all over the country. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. If you are new, you haven't seen me before. So my name is Lisa Fisher, and I'm the health promotion specialist at Four Wing Cold Lake. So I'm hoping that everyone is having some decent weather today. Ours is sunny. We had a storm last night. So it's sunny, but it's windy for here. So it doesn't actually normally get super windy here, but it's gusting to about 40. So it's a little chilly outside. Hopefully, is everyone well rested to get started today? Sunny and super windy in Moose Jaw. Yeah, we had a wind warning last night. It was interesting. But yes, we got some well rested, well enough, somewhat. Yeah, mostly. Yes. Well, that's good that most people are feeling well rested. That's fantastic. I will say it's kind of funny that I'm doing sleep hygiene today because my dog apparently is terrified of windstorms, which I found out last night at 3:30 in the morning because he jumped into bed with us and wouldn't leave. So I'm a little more tired today than normal just because I couldn't get him. I couldn't kick him out. It was sad. He was very scared. So, all right. Let's get going into the content here. So what is sleep hygiene? Because I mentioned it a few times now. So sleep hygiene essentially is a variety of different practices and habits that are necessary to have a good nighttime sleep quality and full daytime alertness. Now remember, sleep quality is perceived, so there's no really great definition of it because it's so subjective. So essentially, if you feel that you slept well, you're waking up the next day, you're feeling really refreshed, you're able to go through the day without feeling tired or feeling like you really need a nap, you feel good about your sleep, then that's your sleep quality. Your sleep duration is going to be between that 7 to 9 hours. So for those who are new, we want 7 to 9 hours is your aim for every nighttime sleep. Very few people are 6 hours or less, and very few people are more than 9 hours. A lot of us seem to want to be able to sleep on less hours than 7, but that's not really the case. It's actually less than 10% of the overall population that can do that. So 7 to 9 hours duration and a good perceived sleep quality. So let's look at how to prioritize your sleep and increase your sleep hygiene. Now, I just want to ask before we get into these, is there anything that you guys do to promote your own sleep hygiene? So what do you do that lets you sleep well? You can just put that in the chat. Play music while sleeping, okay. Let YouTube play in the background. Turn a lamp on instead of the overhead light, consistent routine, blackout curtains, bed at the same time every night, read before bed, completely dark room, watch TikToks, use routine, cool temperatures, try to go to bed at a good time, read. Reading's popular today. Okay, listen to podcasts, play a movie or an episode of something. Okay, so we definitely have a few different options that people are using, which is good. We're going to take a look at what is recommended for sleep hygiene. And you may see that some of the things you're already doing are great, and maybe some things that you're doing may need a little bit of tweaking in order to kind of help your sleep hygiene. Okay. So let's go to the first one here. Respect a regular sleep-wake schedule, which I saw some people are saying having consistent routine. So our biological clock likes routine, so essentially our bodies like routine because our biological clock's on a 24-hour schedule that modulates a lot of our bodily functions. So that includes our body temperature, our hormone secretion, such as our melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, and cortisol. So that's part of the reason why you generally sleep well at night when it's dark outside, and you're more awake during the day when it's light outside, because our biological clock and our circadian rhythms just like the way that works, okay? So the goal is to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, plus or minus 30 minutes. And that includes your weekends and your vacation days. So when I normally ask this, when I did presentations in person, people said, yeah, I do that. And I said, okay, on weekends. And they're like, oh, no, I don't do that on weekends. Or they say, yeah, I do it on weekends. I'm like, okay, so what about vacation? And they go, oh, no, my vacation is just whatever I want, right? And it's really tempting to do that because you don't have anywhere to go or anywhere to be. You don't have to wake up early in the morning, technically, so why not stay up late if you're a night owl? So it's really hard for us to keep that in mind on weekends and vacations. So pick a bedtime and a wake time and stick to them as much as possible. If this is not something that you're doing right now, we want to make gradual changes. So instead of trying to change your sleep schedule overnight, which you're not going to like, try to make gradual changes. So maybe if, right now you are doing well during the week, but you're struggling on the weekend, you're kind of going to bed a few hours later, then kind of switch it from 3 hours late to 2 hours late and do little gradual changes until you can kind of get into that routine and be more comfortable with it. Some people can do a quick changeover and be fine, but most people like the gradual change. Okay. So we had a few people that do this. So does anybody else do this right now? They have a regular sleep-wake schedule on every day, including weekends. And I know for some people, if you're not working right now, this would include every single day. We got some no's, absolutely not, no. Okay, we got a lot of no's. We got a couple yes. Okay, some sort of, try to's. Yeah. Never. Not real. Okay, yeah. Sleeping only once I'm exhausted. Okay, so you're working construction, so more than maybe the Monday to Friday. Okay. Yeah. So I'll say most people struggle with this. Even myself, I like sleep. Right? Like that's just my bed's comfy. But I am trying to do this a little bit better on the weekends. When I first started working from home, I kind of struggled with this a lot because I used to have a very set time that I woke up, every day because I had to get ready and I had to go to work. And now my work is in my spare room, which is across the hall, right? So I had to really work at making sure that I stayed in a routine because the first week I was like, oh, why wake up early? I could stay in bed longer and be comfy. And then I realized it was really affecting my sleep. So I had to get back into my routine. Okay, what about the next one here? So avoid stimulants close to bedtime, and I'll explain what close to bedtime means. So your two stimulants that you're mainly looking at are caffeine and nicotine, because stimulants are essentially those substances that influence your energy levels because they affect your central nervous system. So when you're looking at caffeine, which is the world's most widely used psychoactive substance, it's been found to typically prolong your sleep latency, reducing your total sleep time and your sleep efficiency and your perceived sleep quality. So that's a lot of things that it does. So when you're talking about sleep latency for people who haven't been on a session with us before, that's the duration of time from when you go to bed, you turn off your lights, you're ready to sleep, to when you actually fall asleep. So when you're consuming caffeine, that portion is actually being increased. Your total sleep time that it affects, of course, is the amount of actual sleep that you're going to get in a nighttime episode. And your sleep efficiency is how efficient you are. So how many, it's going to, increase the amount of times you're waking up during the night and how long you're staying awake during those times. If you are caffeine dependent, it is also associated with reduced sleep quality, increased daytime dysfunction, and increased levels of nighttime disturbance. That increased daytime dysfunction is because you're dependent on caffeine to function, right? So therefore, you actually would have dysfunction if you don't use caffeine. Nicotine dependence is also associated with poor sleep quality and increased use of sleep medication and sleep disturbances. So if you use stimulants, your quality of sleep is going to be influenced. And if you are dependent on one or more stimulants, if you refrain from using them, you're going to experience withdrawal, which of course can cause sleep disturbances. So it seems like a bit of a vicious cycle. But if you are trying to kind of reduce your use of stimulants, you may experience some withdrawal, but we want to reduce versus go cold turkey, because then you're going to experience a lot of those nasty withdrawal symptoms and potentially just reuse again so that you're not feeling those things. Females do have a more negative impact on their sleep than males when they're using caffeine or nicotine, so just keep that in mind. So when should you stop using them? Essentially, the general rule of thumb is that you should try to avoid stimulants past late afternoon. Now, if you are a night shift worker, that's going to change a little bit. For those who are shift workers but weren't able to check out last session, there will be a link to that session, and it does talk about caffeine use for shift workers. But general rule of thumb is past late afternoon, we want to be cutting that off. Okay. It's easy when you don't consume caffeine or nicotine. This isn't really a slide that really bothers you, but think of caffeine not just as coffee, remember. So caffeine is coffee, tea, chocolate, anything that has chocolate or cocoa flavorings. If you have, so ice creams and cereals and stuff can also have that in there. So all of those things have caffeine, not just coffee, okay? Pre-workout, yep, pre-workout has caffeine. Some medications do. So if you have like Midol can have caffeine in it. If you have certain headache medications, they have caffeine in it. So you have to be really careful with that too. The no smoking past 10 p.m. That'll depend on what time you go to bed. So if you are a shift worker, that's going to potentially be the case for you. But if you're trying to go to bed at 10 p.m., then you actually want to be stopping using nicotine in the late afternoon. Okay, next slide about alcohol. So I'm not telling you not to drink alcohol. I'm telling you moderation is key. Okay, so Canada's low risk drinking guidelines, you do want to follow those when using alcohol. We want to keep in mind that alcohol is a depressant. So drinking alcohol before bed is linked to more slow wave sleep, which is your deep sleep. Which does allow for memory formation and learning. However, it also turns on your alpha activity, which doesn't typically happen when you're sleeping. So when you have more delta, which is your slow wave sleep or deep sleep, and you have more alpha activity happening at the same time, your sleep quality is just out the window, essentially. It also blocks REM sleep, which is really important for us. So as a depressant, it may help you fall asleep quicker. However, it's more common to wake up during the night, especially during the second half of the night when your body is starting to metabolize the alcohol. So we need to kind of keep that in mind when we're using alcohol. This is not me saying drink alcohol during the day by any means, but we want to use that moderation so we're not over consuming and really upsetting our sleep. Also, alcohol is a diuretic, so it's going to make you go to the bathroom more often. So even if you're not feeling like you're waking up because it's not letting you sleep well, you're going to be waking up more to use the washroom. And if you do consume alcohol, you're more prone to snoring and sleep apnea because your throat muscles are going to be relaxing more so than they normally do when you sleep. So for those who have sleep apnea, that's definitely not a good thing for sure. It takes about 2 hours for a standard drink to be eliminated from your body, so just keep that in mind when you are consuming alcohol. Next part, feel the light. So exposing yourself to bright light in the morning and throughout your waking hours is incredibly important because our circadian rhythm likes that bright light to say, hey, we're supposed to be awake, perfect. Sunlight helps the biological clock reset itself each day. And it's very important if you don't go outside a lot. So for those who work predominantly in an inside environment that maybe doesn't have windows, it's definitely important to try to get as much exposure as possible. For those who are night shift workers and work during the night but sleep during the day, where you would have that exposure, you also need to find ways to expose yourself as well. If you can't leave your house, like for example, I'm working from my spare room. So I'm inside, but I have the windows completely open. My curtains are completely open, so I have sunlight coming in. If that's not possible, then having a light therapy lamp could be useful for those who aren't getting enough natural sunlight. Try to go outside as much as possible, even if it's on just your break or your lunch hour. Try to just have, even 10 minutes of sunlight. We want to try to at least get 1 to 2 hours of sunlight when we wake up, just so that that biological clock gets reset properly. Next part is making your, I mean, if you're having a smoke break, then you're outside. So there's that, I guess. So next part is making your bedroom comfy. So we want a comfortable mattress and pillows. So the life expectancy of a mattress is generally between 7 to 10 years, and of a pillow it's between 18 to 24 months. Now that's going to depend on the quality, the brand, all of those things. The pillow might be something that's a bit easier in your budget to replace versus a mattress. A mattress can be quite expensive. However, you don't necessarily need to buy this top of the line, super expensive mattress in order to have a good night's sleep. You just need one that works best for you. The National Sleep Foundation actually has, it's the American Sleep Foundation. They actually have a whole section of their website where they talk about mattresses and the different types for different sleepers and all that stuff. So if you are in the market for a new mattress, maybe you can check that out and kind of see. Not sure what their sponsorship or anything is like, so there might be some bias. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't looked into that, but it could potentially just be something that is useful for you. If anybody is interested in that link, I can send that to you and at the end of the session. Make the room attractive and inviting for sleep. So we don't want a messy bedroom. We want something that just makes us calm when we go in, okay? Same with, you might not want, super bright walls or maybe red walls. Maybe that's not your thing. Something super comfortable. Your bedroom should be a cool temperature. So that ranges depending on the person. Normally it's between the 15.5 to 21 degrees Celsius. I know in my house, we turn it down to 17 at night, which I am actually a person that gets really cold, so I actually just have a heavier blanket on my side just because I like to be warm and cozy, versus my spouse just likes it to be cooler in the house. We want to be free from any noise that would disrupt your sleep. So that might be difficult for people living in a city. However, you might be used to it, so it doesn't bother you. I know for me, when I'm going to a city now, I have difficulty because I used to live in a city and had no problems. And now I live in Cold Lake, which is a lot quieter. So when I go to sleep in a city, it's harder for me. So free from any of those noises and free from any light. So turn off or dim bright lights. Don't use your overhead lights when you're getting ready for bed. Use lamps whenever possible and try to make sure that they are of soft white, not that, super crazy fluorescent light. You can also get certain lamps that have different functions. I know we have one in our bedroom that has different types of light for if you're reading, if you're studying, if you're working, and it has 3 different types of light in each of those different sections. It's a very intense light. So you can look at things like that. Consider blackout curtains. I know somebody mentioned they have blackout curtains. Those are really, really good tools to use, especially if you're in a place such as Cold Lake, where I went to bed at 10 o'clock last night and it was still pretty bright considering it was storming. So definitely blackout curtains would be beneficial. You also might want to use eye masks, earplugs, white noise machines. You can also use apps for white noise. You can use a fan. I also use a humidifier here because it's really dry in Alberta. So if I don't, I generally feel really dry throat and stuff and wake up from that. So that's not pleasant. You could use an air purifier. You could use anything that really works for you. And some things, of course, are going to be cheaper than others to get. So, okay, next part. Exercise. So we want to exercise regularly during the day. There has been strong evidence that shows that moderate to vigorous physical activity improves the quality of sleep in adults because it reduces the length of time it takes to go to sleep and reduces the time one is awake after going to sleep and before getting up in the morning. It also increases the time we spend in deep sleep and reduces daytime sleepiness. So even 10 minutes of aerobic activity can improve nighttime sleep quality. So even though the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines wants us to have at least a minimum of 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous aerobic physical activity per week, it has been found that 10 minutes of aerobic activity has improved nighttime sleep quality. So if you're not somebody that's hitting the 150 minutes, just try to increase your activity, and even small little increments are going to help your sleep. Of course, we want to get to that 150 minutes minimum, preferably, but we also, that's not something we want to do overnight because you could increase your risk of injury, okay? And avoid strenuous workouts close to bedtime. So evidence has shown that engaging in strenuous workouts generally is not super helpful for most people. However, that's individualized. So I have met some people that say, I do my hard workout at night and I sleep great and it doesn't affect me, and I have really good sleep. I don't feel tired the next day at all. I feel really good. And that's great. Most people, it stimulates them. It raises your body temperature. So your body's not going, oh, I should go to sleep now. It's going, hey, I should be awake, right? So just keep that in mind when you're planning your workouts. So you mentioned maybe a kitten that sleeps on your face to make things dark. So it's interesting because I didn't put pets in here because their evidence kind of contradicts depending on what you're looking at regarding pets in the bedroom. So I'll just kind of mention it quickly here. Pets can be disruptive to sleep. Obviously, it was disruptive to my sleep last night, but it wouldn't have mattered if I had my dog in the room or not, because he would have banged on the door until I literally let him in. So pets can be disruptive to your sleep because if you're somebody who is really sensitive to sound or movement, if you have your pet moving a lot in the room, or if you have your pet in your bed and it's moving a lot, then that can definitely disrupt your sleep. However, some people like having their pet with them because it feels more comfortable for them. They know where they are. They feel, a comforting emotion when they're in the room, and so that can help other people fall asleep. I don't let my dog sleep in my bed. He also, except for last night. I only do it when it's like I feel bad and I know that it's going to be worse if I kick him out. So last time, yeah, but normally he doesn't sleep in our bed just because our bed's not big enough. He's a 70-pound dog, and there's two of us. So he doesn't sleep in our bed, but he does sleep in our room but I do also keep the door open. So he can leave. I don't actually wake up anymore to hearing his nails on our floors. But I found that if I don't leave the door open, he bangs against it because he decides he wants to leave, or he decides he wants to come in the room, and it's more disruptive that way. So finding something that works best for you and your pets is going to be paramount in helping both you and your pets sleep well. Yeah, somebody's mentioning dog's nails on the hardwood. It took me a little bit to get used to it, but now I honestly don't even hear him. He goes down the hall and I have no idea. I'm just sleeping soundly. So, all right, let's move on. So daytime naps. Some people may really enjoy napping. However, naps are not suitable for everyone. Unfortunately, if you're a person that loves napping, it might not be suitable for you. They don't make up for inadequate nighttime sleep. Oftentimes we nap because we're tired, because we say we didn't get enough sleep last night, so we're going to have a nap. And what happens is if we have not actually got enough sleep, it's disrupting your next night's sleep. So it can end up in this just huge vicious cycle. If you are choosing to nap because you are tired, a short nap of 20 minutes has been found to improve mood, alertness, and performance. Okay, so somebody's mentioning naps are bad, doing it to pass the time because the gyms are closed. Yeah, so naps are not necessarily the best thing all the time. Shift workers, they can definitely be helpful. For those who, if you aren't having difficulty falling asleep and you're not waking up during the night, but you just feel tired during the day just because, let's say you worked really hard and did a lot of yard work, you're a little tired, you'd like a little bit of a 20-minute nap, probably not going to be a bad thing. If you are having difficulty falling asleep, you're having insomnia-like symptoms maybe, or you're waking up a lot at night, or you're not getting your 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and then you're choosing to nap, that's not a great idea, okay? So just remember to make sure that you're limiting those naps whenever possible. Okay. All right. Steer clear of disruptive foods. So of course we're going to advocate for healthy eating overall anyway, but there is actually research that shows that certain foods not so great for our sleep. So heavy, rich type foods, fatty or fried meals, spicy dishes, citrus, and carbonated drinks can trigger acid reflux and or indigestion. And when you go and lay down, it actually worsens your acid reflux or indigestion. So not great for people who want to go to sleep. So if you are going to consume food like that, you don't want to be consuming it, past late afternoon as well. So even dinner might not be a great idea. Dinner or supper, whatever you call it in your part of the country, I don't know. But for your supper meal, you don't want to potentially be eating those types of foods. Okay. Sugar at any time of the day can affect your sleep quality. So it doesn't matter what time of the day you're eating your sugar, consuming your sugar, it can affect sleep quality. And we're talking more added sugar, not the natural sugars found in fruit, okay? So if you are consuming sugar, just make sure that you're keeping it in moderation and try not to consume it definitely in the evening if possible, okay? If you are hungry, don't go to bed hungry. A lot of people are under the misconception that if you eat before bed, you're not going to be able to sleep well, or you're going to gain weight, or what have you. That's not the case. As long as you're making a healthy choice, that's a light snack, that's not going to feel heavy in your stomach, then you can have something before you go to bed. It's more concerning if you go to bed hungry, because it might be disruptive for you. You might wake up really, really hungry. And what happens is you're going to go to the fridge or the cupboard and grab whatever's there. You're not going to make a healthy choice at 2, 3 in the morning. Okay, so have a healthy light snack before you go to bed so that you're not waking up hungry during the night. Okay, so next part is relaxing before bed. So we do want to have a regular nightly routine because that essentially lets our brain and our body know, hey, it's time for bed, we want to go to sleep. So we want to also avoid emotionally upsetting conversations and activities before we sleep if possible. I know life doesn't really work in our favor sometimes, and as much as we want to try to avoid it, still might happen. But if you're having, these types of activities or conversations, your mind is more likely to race when you're trying to go to sleep. I also recommend you don't even read the news before bed, because the news generally is not super positive. And I'm not saying to not read the news at all, but maybe not before bed, because it can definitely affect people emotionally. And avoid bright light, especially blue light. So exposure to blue light in the evening can be disruptive to sleep because it suppresses melatonin, and melatonin aids with your sleep. So that's really important to make sure that that's not being disrupted. Blocking blue light emitted from electronic devices has been found to improve sleep in military populations specifically, as well as general population, but there has been studies in military populations. Okay, so just going back to the hunger part, somebody mentioned so getting really hungry when you wake up, also not great as well, because you might not be choosing the best options when you wake up for breakfast. So some people had mentioned that they do some things to relax before bed. So let's go back to that. What are some things that are part of your regular nightly routine? Put in that chat box, and then some people can get some ideas. I know some people had mentioned that they watch YouTube or TV or Netflix or things. Those are things that we might want to actually be starting to take away from our nighttime routine, using the computer, video gaming, because that's your blue light exposure. Okay. Podcast, yeah. Yoga or stretching, foam rolling. Okay. Classical music. Sitting quietly for a bit. Okay, so cell phone use. That's one thing that we might want to try to be limiting a few hours before bed, just because, yet again, blue light. However, you could be using your blue light filter, but maybe even in the last hour before bed, even if you had that blue light filter, taking away the cell phone, just because it does, stimulate your brain a little bit more than other activities would. No routine right now. Had a routine when working, but not right now. Intensive cell phone use. Yeah, it's only 1 minute. Okay, if it's only 1 minute, maybe not so bad. turning lights off and sitting quietly. Okay. Testing various mud tests. Okay, mud tests. Okay. All right. So definitely a few options there. The picture here is somebody in a bathtub, and that's because having a warm shower or a bath can sometimes be really relaxing to some people. You can, people have said they read. Okay, breath techniques. Yeah, blue light. So just stay away from any apps or your phone if possible in the evening. If you are using your phone for an alarm, make sure that you have your blue light filter on, and when you go into the bedroom that it's turned over and you're not trying to reach for it. If you are somebody that has a really intense need to reach for your cell phone, look for getting a regular alarm clock in your bedroom, or be putting your phone on the opposite side of the room. Okay. Moving on, so change it up. So if after 20 minutes you are unable to sleep, change it up. That means you get up, you go out of the room, and you engage in a relaxing activity. So don't go grab your cell phone. Don't turn on the TV. Don't turn on your computer. Go to another room, maybe do some breathing techniques, maybe read your paper book, maybe just sit quietly, maybe listen to some relaxing music. But we want to get out of bed, because it doesn't serve you well to lay there and watch your clock or try to count sheep forever. It just doesn't work. Okay, so getting up and going back to bed when we are tired is going to help us actually sleep. Okay. The next part, reserving your bedroom for sleep and intimacy. So we want to keep cell phones, TVs, computers, and video games outside the bedroom. Who here has a TV in their room? You have two. I think that might be a record. Okay, so we have and a computer. Okay, so it seems like we go 50-50 there. So some people say, well, I like a TV in the room because, I like to lay in bed a little bit in the morning and watch TV, or maybe I'm sick and I like to hang out in the bed when I'm sick. So if that's the case, it's recommended that you only, if you don't have it at all, but if you do have a TV, that you're only using it, when maybe you're having a little bit of relaxing time in the morning in bed. However, we do still want to reduce that amount of time in bed when you're not sleeping, because we want to equate your bed with sleep. Okay, just keep that in mind. But some people who are sick, they also like to, maybe watch Netflix while they don't feel well, and they'd rather be in bed because they fall asleep off and on a lot when they're sick. That would be okay. But of course, still, when you're sick, we want to try to get ourselves out of the bed as much as possible too, and kind of maybe switch into a different room, just so that you're not staying in one spot for too long. Okay. Keeping work materials out of the sleeping environment as well. So if anybody's working from home right now, keep those materials out of the bedroom. I'm in my spare room for a reason, because I absolutely refuse to bring my work into my bedroom. I've never allowed that. I also don't have a TV in my room. I do bring my cell phone in as my alarm, but I don't have a computer in there. I don't have my TV in there, and I do not have my work materials in there. Some people may have difficulty with that right now if you're working from home and your bedroom is the only place that you can work in privacy or for quiet. I am lucky that I have a spare room. We don't have children. I have a dog. He doesn't need his own room. For people who have children and they don't have a spare room, or they don't have an office area, that can be difficult. Okay. We really, really want to be trying to strengthen the association between bed and sleep. So even for those people who read before bed, it may be, if you're having difficulty falling asleep, maybe try reading out in the living room under some, with a nice reading light before you go into your bed to try to go to sleep, because you may have difficulty associating your bed with sleep, because now your brain's saying, when we go to bed, we read, right? I know I have difficulty with that sometimes, because I read and then I really get into a book and I want to finish the chapter, and then it's a cliffhanger and I want to get into the next chapter. I've been, told a couple times, my spouse is coming and be like, weren't you supposed to be asleep an hour ago? And I'm like, oh, oops. Right. So I've actually started trying to read out in the living room more often than reading into the bedroom, just because I'm obviously having difficulty with that. Okay. Next section. Listen to your bed partner. So if you have a bed partner, and the reason I use this is because that is the term that is used, scientifically, but your spouse, your partner, whoever's sleeping in the bed with you, listen to them if they are voicing their concerns about your sleep. Okay. Oftentimes, I've heard it time and time again that people ignore what they've said, but they are better at detecting a sleep issue than we are. Especially when you look at things like sleep apnea or snoring, we don't know that we're snoring. They do, 100% they do, right? So if they're saying, you're snoring a lot more, or you're tossing and turning a lot more, I've heard you talk a lot more in your sleep, then talk to them about that and have their concerns be valid, right? I went on vacation with another couple, and so we were backpacking, so we're all in hostels and stuff, and there was one person I had mentioned, your snoring is it happens sometimes, and it's not quite normal snoring. And the spouse had said, I know, I've been telling them that forever. And the person, downplayed and said, no, it's fine, right? But now there's multiple people in the same room going, there's an issue, right? Sorry, connection is a bit spotty. If you're having difficulty, you can also just refresh. Mine so far is going fine over here. Is everybody else still good? I know last week it froze. Everyone's good? Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. We're almost done as well. So here's the last part here. If you are still having difficulty sleeping, you want to speak to a healthcare professional, okay? Reason being is that if you have tried all of these tips and tricks and you are still not feeling rested, then there's the potential that you could have a sleep disorder, okay? You want to talk to a healthcare professional in order to be properly diagnosed. You may also talk to a healthcare professional because you say, my sleep isn't great, I've obviously tried everything, and then they go through and they may have different ideas for you based specifically on your individualized needs, okay? I did a whole session on sleep disorders, but for those who are new, a couple sleep disorders that you might want to be, looking out for would be your sleep apnea, which is when we have breathing pauses while we sleep that last about 10 seconds. We have insomnia as well, which is that difficulty falling asleep, waking up a lot of the nighttime, or waking too early in the morning. Those are the main issues that you would have. They're the most common ones in the Canadian population. Other ones include your restless leg syndrome, your narcolepsy, your hypersomnia as well, sleepwalking, sleep talking, all of those things as well. But the main ones that most people would present with would be your sleep apnea or insomnia, okay? It's important to go talk to somebody versus just try to diagnose yourself with the internet. Please don't do that. Okay. So here are just the overall resources that we put on every session. But before we end, I have some handouts for you, as well as just a couple last polls. So I'll do the polls first, and I'll give you those handouts. So the first poll I have here is, I feel I can apply what I learned today in my daily living. So you can say strongly disagree, disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree, or strongly agree. Okay, majority of people have answered here. So most people have found it to be helpful, which is awesome. And the next poll is, how satisfied are you with the Demio platform? So that's the platform that we're using right now. So are you extremely satisfied, somewhat satisfied, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, it's somewhat satisfied, or extremely satisfied? so most people are good with it. So I'm going to do those handouts now, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So if you have any questions at this point, you can ask. You can even start typing in the chat right now as I put these handouts in. So the first, I'm going to provide you with a sleep diary, including the sleep diary instructions, and that's from Sleepwell Nova Scotia. So their website is mostly talking about insomnia and CBTI, but you can definitely, sorry, there's a fly in my house. You can definitely use the sleep diary for anything, right? I'm going to add that. Sorry. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's so sleep diary instructions. The next thing I'm going to post is the sleep hygiene checklist, and I'll actually put the link to it too, because this one's you can print and physically write in it, or you could go on the website, fill it all out on the website, and then print that completed one. So whatever works better for you. People like different things. So there is the sleep hygiene checklist, and this one's really great because you can grab it and then sorry, where is it here? Nope, that's not the right thing. You can take it, print it off, and bring it to your healthcare provider, which is really great for those who might feel like there's a potential concern. So that is the sleep hygiene, the link to it, if people are more interested in it that way. I'm also going to put the link, so Sleepwell is where I got the diary as well, but I'll also include the link to their sleep efficiency calculator, which can be really helpful for those who are trying to figure out if they're an efficient sleeper. So it asks, not just the time you would go to bed and the time you went to sleep, but also how many times you woke up during the night, how long you were awake during the night, what time did you get out of bed, all of those things to see how efficient you are. And the last handout I'm just going to give you here is the Sleepwell app. So May was our sleep campaign at Four Wing Cold Lake. Health Promotion put that on, and our PSP staff put together a list of sleep apps that they use and they like. And so we put it in an infographic, and I figured I'd share it with you guys because you might find it useful as well. So I'll just share that there too for you. Okay, so are there any sleep hygiene recommendations specifically for healthcare workers who work combination day and night shifts? Jamie, were you able to catch the shift work session last week? No, you weren't? Okay. So I will actually put in that link to the last sessions, which I don't 100% know if this session is on there yet. Not this session, but the shift work is. But I did a whole shift work session and had specific tips for sleep hygiene for shift workers. So that might be very beneficial for you or for whoever you're trying to get some help for. So I'll grab that link right now. And for anybody who is new and this is their first session, you can take a look at all of the series sessions through that link as well. Does anybody have any other questions while I grab this link? Just gonna take a look here. Okay, so here is the link. I also am going to put here, just in case you have a question later on, that is our Four Wing Health Promotion Gmail. We're using a temporary Gmail right now because we're not working in the office. So just make sure that you're not putting any protected information when you're sending us an email, but feel free to touch base at any time that you have questions. And if you do have Instagram as well, we just finished our sleep campaign. So there's a bunch of information on sleep on our Instagram. So that's our handle right there. If you wanted to go follow us, you'd get all that information. And then, of course, all the campaigns are coming up right now. So, or if you can also check with your local base or wing to see if they happen to have a Facebook or an Instagram that you can follow as well. Okay. So if there are no other questions, I will finish up this session. Thank you so much for coming today, as well as for those who, hung out with me this whole entire series. That's fantastic. Thank you. For anybody who is kind of wondering when I'll be back for anything else, I'm finishing up an addiction series on Thursday. And then I am planning on putting together an energy drink presentation later on in June, so you'll be able to catch me there. But the Sleep and You series is complete as of today. So have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully the weather is fantastic. And if I don't see you again on a session, enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you. Stay safe as to you as well.